Hello guys and welcome to the channel. In this video I'm going to go through one of the very interesting projects that I teach in my HTML, CSS and Sass course. So it's a very interesting project because with just HTML and CSS we're able to achieve so much on this project. Okay, I'm going to leave a link in the description to the course on Udemy. It's a comprehensive course, 18 plus hours of content, and we cover all the areas that you need to be able to develop websites with HTML and CSS confidently. Okay, so but very interestingly, I'm also going to leave a coupon in the description that will help you to get this course for less than $10. Okay, so I want to encourage you to get the course and see you in the project. All right. Hello students and welcome back to our course. Congratulations on getting to this section. I know you've learned a lot. Okay, so in this section we are going to build this login interface. Okay, and basically let's just take a tour of what we have here. So let me click on register and see what happens. So this is the effects we're going to build using just HTML and CSS. Okay, now when you try to interact with the input field, okay, so I'm going to click on the username. You see something that the border bottom actually changes. Okay, and by the time I begin to type, you see that the border actually changes to green, okay, which signifies that the user is interacting with the form. So the same for the password. All right, so the button has this hover effect, okay, and this shadow under it. Okay, so let me come to the register. So in the register, if I start typing, it stays this orange color, but when I add at and then I add Gmail, right, it becomes green. Okay, so that's a kind of I'll just say validation, but it's basically just HTML validation. Okay, so we're going to learn how to build that in this in this section. Okay, and the interesting thing is that you're going to use a lot of the things you've learned in the previous sections. You're going to use them in this particular section, and it's my hope that at the end of this section you'll be very confident about building login interfaces like this. Okay, all right, so let's see how it looks when we view it on a mobile device. So I'm going to view it on a small width mobile device, and this is what it looks like. So it's actually responsive, and then I did not even use any media query for this. Okay, so let's take it a little bit bigger. Okay, so this is what it actually looks like on a mobile device. All right, so basically we're going to build this in this section now. So let's get started. Thank you so much and see you in the next video. All right, welcome back guys. So in this one we're going to set up our working environment. So let me just reduce this, and I'll just reduce the width a little. Okay, so this is a simple folder that we opened in Visual Studio Code, course login app, and we have index.html and styles.css. so those are the only things we're going to be using for those are the only two files we're going to be using for this project. So I'll create my boilerplates. Okay, and I'm just going to name this course login app. Okay, so that it's different from the previous one. And let's link our styles.css first. So I'm just going to say styles.css, and then we are going to be using fonts from Google Fonts. So I'll just come here and say fonts.google.com. okay, maybe I should maximize this, and I'll search for Poppins. Okay, so this is the font I'm going to be using, and basically I'm just going to select, I think, 400 and 500 and 700. Okay, all right, so in the previous projects we actually copied this link and we place this link inside of our index.html, but this time we're just going to use this at import. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy all of this, right? Or maybe I should just copy everything so that you see what I'm getting rid of. So I'll copy everything here. I would come to my styles.css and I'll paste it in. Okay, and of course I'll get rid of the styles tag. Okay, and like so we can use CSS fonts right inside. We can place them right inside of our styles.css file. Okay, so that's what we're going to do in this lecture. So basically I think we've set up our fonts. Okay, the other thing is that we just need to add the fonts to our CSS file, and the simple way we can do that is just to copy this guy here, so Poppins and sans serif, and we can just come here and just say HTML and just paste that in. Okay, so this is how you do it, and save. All right, so basically I think we're good to go. Okay, there's one more thing we need to add, font awesome. Okay, and I know you've already seen how to incorporate font awesome into your page. So basically I'm just going to get my font awesome script tag. Okay, and I'll just copy it and paste it inside, okay, of my project. So I'll just come here. All right, I want my CSS to be the very last thing, so I'll paste it in, and this is font awesome. Okay, so this script source with kit.fontawesome.com blah blah blah. You can actually just copy this. Okay, it will work for you. I mean, you can use it as much as you want. Okay, so basically I think we are done with setting up our working environment. So in the next lecture we're going to start adding HTML and CSS. All right, thank you so much, and see you in the next one. All right, welcome back, guys. So we're going to start writing HTML in this section. Okay, so let's begin. So I would start by creating my header tag, and everything is going to be inside of my header actually, but I'm also going to create a class of container. Okay, and let's begin by creating the h1. So this is actually the container, so we're going to start by creating the h1 inside of the container. So I would say h1, and I'm just going to say login interface. Okay, so let's go ahead and create an impute field, right? And this impute field is going to have an ID, so we're going to say impute hash, and the first one is going to have an ID of login, right? And we're going to give it a type of radio. Okay, it's also going to have a it's also going to be checked, so the first one is going to be checked. So let's go ahead and duplicate that, and this one is going to have a class or an ID of register, and this one is going to have an ID of reset, so that should be small letter. Okay, so let's save. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to create a nav tag, right? And within the nav tag we're going to create label. So label, and this label, the first one is going to be for our login. Okay, and it's also going to have a class of login. Okay, I feel like I should just make this bigger so we can see our code stretched out. Okay, so we can always come back and okay, I think it's fine like this. Actually, let me just reduce this to, yeah, okay. So the first label is going to have a class of login. Okay, and within the label we're going to put a font awesome icon. So basically I already know the icon I want to use, so I'm just going to say okay, and it's going to have a class of, I think the first one is FAB. Is it FAB? Sorry, let me just confirm. So FAS. Okay, and maybe I'll just grab the name of the icon. So the first icon is sign in alt, so I'll just come here and paste in the class. Okay, so that's the name of the icon. Let me save, so we can just right click and open with live server to see what we have. Okay, yeah, so this is the first icon, I think. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, So inside of this label, we are going to add login and save. Okay, so this is what we have. Now what we can do is we can just duplicate this label. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this and come down, paste it 2 more times, and then I'm going to change the class. So this is going to be for register. So let me just copy the register and replace it here. Okay, and this one is going to be, let me just check what I used. So I used the user circle, user hyphen circle. Okay, so by the way, you can actually check Fonts Awesome website and search for the various fonts they have, and that's where I actually got all of these fonts, so I'm not manufacturing them. So this one is going to be reset. Okay, so let me just copy that and I'll paste that in, and then I'll change the Font Awesome icon to share square. So that's share hyphen square, and let's save. Okay, so basically I think we have the icons we need. All right, so at this point I think we can start adding some styles, okay, to this initial markup we've done here. So that's what we're going to do in the next section. Okay, by the way, this should not be checked, all of them cannot be checked at the same time. So and I think I'm going to give them a name, so I'll just give some space and I'll say name and I'll just say tab. Okay, and I'll copy that. And the reason why I'm giving them, I'm sure you already know that because we already saw that in the past, is so that they can all be linked. Okay, and then I'll save. So basically what happens is that if I click on one, the other is unchecked. Okay, so that's basically what the whole name and stuff, giving them the same name, actually does. Okay, so I think we're done with this section. Maybe in the next section we're going to start writing the CSS, for this initial section we've done. All right, so see you in the next one. All right, welcome back to this section. We're going to write the CSS for the initial markup we wrote. But one more thing before we begin, at the end of this label, the last label, let's add a div with a class of slide. Okay, just an empty div, right? So a div with a class of slide, and that's all. All right, so let's go to our CSS file and let's come and start by writing a reset. Okay, so you already know this, so I'm going to do margin of 0. I'm going to do a padding of 0, and I'm going to do a box sizing of border box. Okay, so let's come here so we can see what we're doing. Okay, all right, now let's add some variables. So we're going to use some variables in this section. Okay, so basically I'm just going to do my root and I'm going to add some variables. So I already have the variables listed out, so it's cumbersome typing all of those variables, so I'm just going to copy them and paste them in. Okay, so these are the colors I'm going to be using in this section here. Okay, so let's I think I need to indent this very well. Okay, all right, so let's save. So you can go ahead and copy these variables. Okay, you can pause the video and get the variables. All right, so in our HTML we have added the font family, and I'm just going to add my font size of 10 pixels and I'll save. Okay, so everything is much smaller here, and let's add some styles for the body. So I'm going to say body, right, and I'll start by adding a width of 100% and a height of 100% of the viewport height. Okay, and let's add a background. So it's just going to be a background because we're going to use linear gradients, and we're going to position it to right and bottom. Okay, I'll add a comma and I'll come to the next line so that I can continue, right? And the first color is actually going to be our color primary, color secondary. So I think I will just do a variable and I would say color secondary. Okay, I'll add a comma and I'll do another variable and I would add my color primary and I'll save. Okay, so this is what we have from this code here. Let's add this padding. Okay, so padding, and I'm going to say that on the top and bottom I want 10 rem, and on the left and right I want 0.5 rem, so that's like 5 pixels, and I'll save. Okay, so basically this tiny padding on the left and right is what we have when we come to a desktop, a mobile width. Okay, so if I come in, there's this tiny padding here. That's basically what we have, but of course you can make it, bigger. All right, so let's target our container. Okay, because the container is going to house everything, so I'm just going to say container, and well, I should actually start with the header, but I'm not actually writing any specific styles for just the header. Okay, so I'm going to say container, and I'll give my container a max width, right, of 500 pixels, so 500 px. Yeah, and let's do a background color of white. So it's actually easier to, by the way, white is actually hash FFF. Maybe I should actually use that and save. So let's come so we can see what we're doing. So this is what we have now. Okay, let's continue and let's do some padding. So the padding is going to be 2 rem on the top and bottom, 0 on the left and right. Let's do margin. So that's margin, and let's just do 0 and auto, and let's save. Okay, so that's puts everything in the center. Let me just scroll down a little so we can see what we're doing. Let's do a border of 1px solid and transparent, and let's do a border radius of I'm just going to do 5 pixels, so 5px, and we're going to actually need to have a z index, and I'm going to set the z index to -1, and I'll save. Okay, so what do we do next? Let's target the header here, this h1. So we're going to do header and h1, because everything is inside the header, so we can just actually say header h1. Let's set the display to block. Ouch, that should be block. And let's give it a font size. Okay, maybe I should actually align it. So text align, and let's do center. Okay, so let's give it a font size of 2.5 rem. Font weight, let's just do 700, and let's do line height. So line height, let's just do 5 rem, so that's 50 pixels. Let's give it a color, and I'm just going to say var, right, and I'm going to give it a color primary. Okay, and let's save. All right, so basically this is what we have. By the way, when we say font weight, it's actually one of the figures that are here, the styles we imported. So there is font weight of 400, 500, and 700. Okay, all right, so let's continue. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to ignore this for now, these guys here, or maybe what we can do is, let's see. So they are actually the inputs with the type of radio, right? So we can come here, right, and we can just say we can actually just come back to that, so there's no need to rush. Or let me just type it out so I don't forget. So I'll say header and input, and you want to specify the type, so you put it in this square bracket, right? So you say input with a type equals to radio, right? And in the future we are going to set the display of this input to none. Okay, so if I save that, it disappears, but for now we don't want that, so I'm just going to leave it as inline and save. Okay, so but when we are done, we're going to change this to none. All right, so we are past that. Let's continue. So let's target the navigation. So I'll say header and nav. So for our nav, which is this guys here, let's do a display. So I'll say display, and I'm sure you know what we want to do, display flex, and let's justify content. This time we're going to say space around. Okay, so it's going to put equal number of space around the items. Oh, this is login, so I actually did not change it, so this should be register and reset. So let's just do that quickly. So login, register, reset. All right, so that's what we have here. We're good to go. Let's so this should be okay. So we're here. All right, so for this we're going to say we're going to align items, and it's also going to be center. Let's save that, and we're going to add a border. So the border is going to be 1 pixel, so I'm just going to say 1px solid, and it's just going to be #EEE. Okay, so sometimes when like for example going to use a color just once, actually do not put it in a variable, but this is not to say that you cannot actually put it in a variable. You can put anything you want in variables. Okay, all right, so we're going to set position to relative because we're going to need that later. So maybe I should just cut that and put it up top so it's clear. And let's add a background color. So background color, and I'm just going to use my gray color. So I'll say var and gray, and I'll save. Okay, and I'm going to set my Z index to 1. So I'm going to set that to 1, and that's all for this section. Okay, so let's go ahead and style the label itself. So I would come here and okay, there's something that I need to do. So I'll give it a width of 100%, and I'll save. Okay, so let's style our label. So I'll come down here and I'll say header and nav and then label. So let's just add some space here. So let's give this label a font size of 1.4 em and a font weight of 500. I'll save that. Okay, so we have it looking bold. Let's do a position of relative also, and let's set the color to, we're going to use our variable, so we're going to say var and dark gray. So let's save that, and then let's do cursor and set it to pointer. So basically if you just hover here, you see that there is some space on it. Okay, all right, so for this nav, I think we need to add some padding. So maybe I will come here and let's just do from here, let's say padding. No, that's not where we add the padding. So let's just continue. So let's target the icon itself. So I'm just going to come here and say header and nav and label, and then the font awesome icon. So basically for the icon, we're going to add some padding on the right. So padding right, let's just do 0.5 rem, and we're going to give it a color. Let's use our primary color. So that would be color prime, no, secondary color, and save. Okay, so that's what we have. Okay, so now let's do right. So now let's target our slide, which is this guy we have here, this last empty div we created. Okay, so for that we can just say header and dot slide. Okay, it's the only thing we're styling that is slide, so we can just so let's do position and let's set it to absolute, right? And we'll say that from the top we want it to be 0 from the top, and from the left we want it to be 6%. Okay, so let me say left, or maybe I'll start from actually 0 from the left so we can see what we're doing. So we'll give it a width of, I'll give it a width of 23%, right? And I'll set some padding, right? And I'll set some padding. I'll say, okay, so for the padding I'll say 0 on the top and bottom and 1 rem on the left and right. Let's give it a height of 100%. Okay, so if we're going to be orderly in our CSS, then the height should actually come immediately after the width. Okay, I'll come here and paste in the padding, and then let's set some background color, and we're going to use our primary color. So I'll just say color primary. Let's give it a border radius of 3 rem. That should be 3 pixels. And let's give it a z index, so zi of -1. So that's -1. Okay, and let's set transition all and 0.3 seconds. Okay, let's save that and see what we have. So basically this is what we have. I think we should add some padding on this guy. Okay, so let's just come up here, and I'm just going to come to my nav. Okay, and I'll add some padding, and I'll just say 1 rem so that it's a little bit big. Right, so this is what we have, and this looks fine. But you see, we want this guy, this background, to be centered around. Okay, so that's why we're going to come here, right, to the slide, and we're going to say that from the left we want it to be 6%, and let's save that. So you see that it's centered here. Okay, so now basically the logic behind the logic in this form is that when we click on this checkbox, okay, or basically when we click on any of this, because the checkbox, they are linked with this label guys we have here. So basically when we click on this, we want this slide to move to that position. Okay, so that's basically what we want to do. Okay, so we're going to come here and say we're going to use the checked hack. So I'll basically say hash register. Okay, in other words, when the ID register is checked, so I'll say checked, right? I want these styles to be applied to nav and slide. Okay, so that will be dot slide. Okay, oh, I didn't use nav, I use header. Okay, so maybe I can add nav here just to make it consistent, and I'll save. So let's add our style. So basically what I'll do is that I'll say that I want this left, right, to be, I'll just increase this. I'll say 23%. No, that will be 38%. Okay, from what I've calculated. So I'll save, and as you can see, when you click on the register here, right, it moves this slide background to this point here. So let's click on the first one, which is login, and you see that it moves it here. Okay, So you see that the transition is actually what makes it look like it slides. Okay, so if I get rid of the transition, so let me just get rid of that, and if I click on it, it just appears. Okay, but with the transition, it slides. Okay, so I'm sure I'm sure we've done this before, so let me just take one more minute to explain. So if you come to the index.html here, we have this checkbox, right? And impute, yeah, this impute with type of radio button. Each of this radio button is connected to the label. Okay, so this ID you see here, login, and you see here label, it's actually for login. And then inside of the label we placed in the icon. So basically they are linked, the labels are linked with these radio buttons. So if you click on any of the labels, you see that the radio button is automatically selected. Okay, so that's basically what we did here. We say that when, for example, the register is checked, the register checkbox is checked, we want to add these styles to nav slide. Okay, and then we change the position from left by 38%. As simple as that. So we're going to do this for the last one. So I'll just copy this and I'll paste it in, and then I would say that when they reset, and then I'll move this by 74%. So that's 74, and I'll save. Okay, so but if we click here, you see that it moves here like so and like so. So we are good to go on this front. Okay, now there's one more thing we need to do, and let me just come to the first app. So you see that when we click on a particular menu item, right, the color changes to white, unlike these other ones that are dark. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. So basically to do that, let me just come down here. So to do that, basically what we are going to do is we are going to say, so let's say hash login and checked. Okay, so basically when the login is checked, we want to add some styles to, so I would say nav label, so nav and label, right? But then I'll add the .login class to make it specific to just one of them. Okay, and then basically all we have to do is let's just duplicate this and we'll change this to register, right? And we'll change this to register, and then we're going to change this to reset, and we'll do the same here. So reset, and then we'll say that we want the color to be white, so that's hash fff, and then let's save. Okay, so I think I know what's happening here. Let me go to my index.html. Okay, so label with a class of login, label with a class of register, label with a class of reset, nav label login. Okay, oh, I realized I didn't add comma here. I was wondering, so let me just add my comma. Okay, so the first two are going to have commas and the last one isn't going to have. And if I save, you see that so if I click on this, it becomes white, and so and so. Okay, so basically I think we can maybe take a break on this section. We can stop here, and in the next section we're going to continue building the content of the login app. All right, thank you so much, and see you in the next one. All right, welcome back, guys. So in this one, we are going to write the markup for the content of each section. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to come here, right, to our index.html. And so let's just come down here, and inside, just immediately after our navigation tag, right, just come down and we're going to add a section tag. Not going to have any class or anything like that, just a section tag to hold everything, right? And the first thing, we're going to create a div with a class of content and a modifier class of content hyphen login. Okay, so when we're writing our HTML markup, I always like to make this guy big. Okay, all right, so this is going to be the first one. and we're going to have 3 of these. So let me just copy this, right, and let me duplicate it 3 times. Okay, and I'm just going to change this to content register, and I'm going to change this to content reset. Okay, so I'm sure you already have an idea of what we're doing. So each of the various items here are going to be placed inside all of this. Okay, so for the content login, let's just add a h1 tag. Just so I'm just going to say h2 rather, and I'm just going to say login, right? And I'll come here, right? I'll add another h2 in the second one, and I'll say register. And for the last one, I'll add my h2 and I'll say reset, and then I'll save. Okay, so let's just minimize this. Let's reduce the width here so we can see what we are doing. Okay, so basically this is what we have: login, register, reset. Okay, but this is definitely not what we want. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do before we start adding some styles is that we're going to create the logic that, you know, changes the content, that spreads out the content into the different sections. So let's go to our styles.css, right? Or maybe I should break that. Okay, so I'll do that in the next section so that this section is not overly lengthy. Okay, so let's continue in the next section. Yeah. All right, welcome back, guys. So we're going to write the css for this logic here. Okay, so let me just come down here. I don't know if I should add a comment. Let's see. Let's just add a comment and say content section. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to get the class of content and we're going to hide it. So we're going to say display, right, and set it to none and save. So all of the content has disappeared, but also there's something we're forgetting, and that is our checkbox, right? So let's go up, and yeah, so impute with the type of radio button, let's set it to none because we don't need it anymore. Okay, so we're getting close to what we have here. All right, so let's come back down here, and what we're going to do is we're going to target all of the classes. So the first thing I'll do is I would say that when the login checkbox is checked, right, I want to add some styles to, so I'll basically just say the section with the class of content hyphen login. So this is actually a class, so you should have a dot in front of it. Okay, so basically we are saying that when the login impute checkbox is currently checked, right, which is when we click on this guy here, we want to add some styles to the content login div, right? So basically what are we going to do here? We're just going to say display and set it to block. So let's save that, right? So you see here that the login actually is displayed here, but it's not displayed here. Nothing is displayed here. So what are we going to do? We're just going to copy this. So I'm just going to copy this, right? And I'll paste that once, paste that twice, and then I'll say that when the register is checked, we want to display the content register, and we'll set it to display block. Let's save that and see what we have. So when we click on the register, you see here that we have the register, and then for this last one, we're going to change it to, it's going to change to reset. So let's change this also to reset, and let's save. Okay, so if we come here and click on reset, you see here that we have reset. So basically login shows the content for the div with a class of content login, and same for reset, and same for register, and same for reset. So basically I think we can go on and continue adding the content. So basically in the next section we're going to continue writing the HTML for the login section. All right, so let's go there. Okay, so welcome back. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to add the content for the different sections. So I'm back in my HTML. So let me just minimize this and expand this just a little. Okay. All right. So the first is our content login. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add font awesome icon. So I would look for, this is my font awesome icon here. So I'll just grab this and I'll come here and I'll paste it above the h2 tag. Okay, and I'm going to change the icon to user, I think. So yeah, so that's user, and I'll save. So let's just, okay, so this is what we have, and I think something is wrong here. It's displaying multiple times. So I don't know exactly what the problem is, but let me just, so apparently it's displaying multiple times. Let me get rid of it and see what I did wrong. Save. Okay, I think I didn't copy and paste it well, so let me just do that again and save. Oh, so there was no closing tag. I realized there was no closing tag. Okay, but this is how it actually is. So fa user hyphen tag. Okay, and this login, we're just going to change it to sign up, sign in rather. Okay, and I'll save that. All right, so basically this is what we have. What do we do next? We're going to come down here. So let me just separate this. So separate the content 2 and content 3, and just below this guy here we're going to add a form. So let me just say form, right? And I'm just going to leave the action blank. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do in that form is we're going to add a label. So let me just say label, and this label is going to be for user. Okay, even though we actually don't need to write the user and stuff like that. Okay, and inside of the label we're going to paste in our font awesome icon one more time, and this one is just going to say user, right? Yeah, so that's it. And we're then going to add an impute. So impute, type of text, let's add a placeholder or an ID first. We actually don't need this ID and stuff like that. Okay, all right, but it's the right thing to do. So I'm just going to say user, and I'm going to add a placeholder that is going to say username, right? And I'm going to say that I want autocomplete to be off, and let's make this form required. So whenever you're writing a login form, you have to make it required. Okay, so that the user has to, so that's like HTML validation. So the user must actually type in something before they can submit that form. Okay, so that's what the whole required thing does. So let me copy this, right? And I'm just going to duplicate it and replace it for password. Okay, so I'll just come down here and paste that in, and I'm just going to change this to pass, right? And this is going to say password, I think. So let me just confirm the, okay, so this is actually lock. So fa lock, like so. And let's change the ID here also to pass. Okay, and the placeholder is going to say password, of course. So let's just do password, and it's also going to be required. Okay, so I'll save that, and so that's what we have basically. And I think the last thing we need to do is we need to add in, oh, there's this stay logged in before the button, so we're going to add that. So for the stay logged in, what I'm going to do is within the, I'm just going to add a div and give it a class of logged, right? And inside of that div, I'm going to add an impute, impute, and it's going to be a type of checkbox. So checkbox, and basically it's going to have an ID also of checkbox, and I'm going to add a label just below it. So I'll say label, and this label is going to be for checkbox, so CHECK and box, and the label is going to say stay logged in. Stay logged in. Stay logged in. I think I'm spending too much time here. Okay, so yeah, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add a simple button. So I'm just going to say button, right, with the button is going to say login, of course, and it's going to have a class of btn, and I'll save that. Okay, so I think that's all for the initial markup of the first section. What we're going to do is in the next section we're going to add styles to this markup we did here. All right, see you in the next section. All right, welcome back, guys. So now let's write the css for the login content section. Okay, so let's just come to our styles.css and I'll add a comment and I'll say form styles. Okay, and basically let's start by getting the section, and let's do dot content. I think we already did content. Okay, so we already did content here, so we can probably add these styles here. Okay, so I'm just gonna add it here. So what I'll just do is I'll just say margin, and I'll say 3 rem on the top and bottom, and auto on the left and right, and then I'll set the text align to center. Ouch. So that should be text hyphen align and center. All right, so yeah, so we can just leave that here and we can get rid of this so that we don't have two styles. Okay, all right, so now let's start by targeting the icon. Okay, so I'm going to say dot content, and I'm going to say the direct child. Okay, that's what this means, and I'll say I. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because inside of the content there are actually many eyes. Okay, but I want, so let me just go back here. So content, so this is the first I, right, and it's a direct child of this div. Okay, but don't forget that also inside of the form we still have I. So if I don't, in fact, let me just do it. So I'll come here, right, and let me just give it a color first of, I think I use the color secondary. So I'll say var and secondary color. So you see what happens. So it affects everything, all the icons inside of the content div. So but when we now put this greater than sign, right, it means that it's going to affect only the direct child of this content div. So if I save that, you see it applies to just the first one. Okay, yeah, so I think we're good to go on that note. I think there's something wrong with this my icon and my username, but I'll look into it when we get to that area. So let's so first let's add font size of 3 rem, right, so it's larger, and let's give it a border. So border, let's do 2px and solid, so 2px solid, and let's do padding. So I've not added the border color because if you don't add the border color, it's just going to inherit the color. Okay, so the color of the that you set here. So let me do padding, right, and let's just do 0.8 rem, which is actually equals to 8 pixels, and let's do border radius of 5 rem. Okay, all right, so that's what we have. So let's target the h2 tag. So I would say dot content and h2. So basically let's just do a font z of 2 rem, and let's set the line height, so line height of 2.5. So save that, and you see there's space around it. Let's do some padding. So I'll do 0 on the top and bottom. I can't remember exactly why I added padding here, Oh, I know why I added padding. So 0 on the top, and we'll see why we're adding padding here. 0 on the top and bottom, and 1 rem. And let's do position to relative and save. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add horizontal lines beside this sign in. So let me just come here and show you. So we're going to add these horizontal lines, okay, and basically they are on the 3, okay. So let me just go back, and to do that we're going to add the before and after pseudo elements. So let's just come here and say dots. So let me just make this come up, content and h2 and before. Okay, so you know how we do this. So we start by adding content and make it empty, and let's do position absolute. We're going to say that now we're going to have to position this very well. Okay, so we're going to say that from the left I want it to be 31%, okay, and from the top I want it to be 50%. Don't worry, we're going to center it. Let's give it a width of 10%. So we're just using percentages here because we want it to be responsive, such that when we are changing the size of the screen, it's adjusting appropriately. Let's give it a height of 1 pixel, and here we're going to give it a background color of var and dark, and let's save. Okay, so basically this is what we have, and apparently it looks fine like this, okay, because I've not added something here, but it's still looking so good. Okay, so let me do something here. Let me say transform, and I'll say translate on the y-axis, and I'll say minus 50%, and I'll save that. Okay, well, it's actually still displayed in the center. Okay, but the transform property is actually what makes sure that it's centered around the text. Okay, so what we're going to do to put this on the other side is we're just going to copy from here, right, and we're going to change it to after. So I'll paste that in, and I'll change this before to after, right? And of course, we have to change the positioning. So let me just make sure. So I'll say from the right, so I'll change this left to right, and I'll save. Okay, so basically that's just basically all we need to do. So you can see here that we have the guys here. So I wonder why this is not actually thick 2 pixels like this one, 1 pixel, sorry. I wonder why. So let me just have a look at it. So height 1 pixels. Okay, it's not something I want to spend so much time on. Okay, all right. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start to style the form, right? But let me just look at my form markup one more time to make sure that I position things properly. So let me come here and label impute, sorry, icon first, and then impute next. Okay, so that seems to actually be fine. All right, so let's just continue. We'll figure everything out as we go on. I don't know if I should actually stop here and add the CSS for the form. So I think I'll just stop here, and I'll add the CSS for the form in the next one so that we don't have too much long videos. Okay, so see you in the next video. All right, welcome back, guys. So let's begin. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say dot content, and we're going to target the form, and basically we're just going to give it a width of 70%. So 70%. Let me save and see what that does. Okay, so we're not even done yet, it's already. Anyway, let's do margin of 0 and auto. Let's do, okay, so that centers it actually very well. Let me see. So let me do display flex, right, and I'll do flex direction. So flex direction, and I'll set it to column. Okay, so that's exactly what we want. So let's start by targeting the label. So I'll say dot content and label. We're going to need to give this a position of relative, and we're going to need to, okay, so I'll just say margin 0 auto, and I'll give it a width of 100%. I'll save that. Okay, let's scroll up a little and let's target the impute itself. So I would say dot content, and well, we can just say label. Let's just be specific. Let's say form label and impute. Okay, so let's do display and set it to block. Of course, let's make sure that our width is 100%. Let's do some padding. So padding of, I'll do 1.3 rem on the top and bottom and 3 rem on the left and right. Okay, so we have it, this gigantic looking form here. Let's do border, and for the border, what are we going to do? We're going to do 1 pixel, 1 px, and solid and transparent. So let's save that. Wow, all the border is gone. So we're going to do, let's do border bottom, because we need a border on the bottom, right? So for the border bottom, I'm going to do 2px solid, right? And I'm going to do RGBA. So RGBA, and I'll do 0, that should be comma, so comma, and I'll do 0.4, and I'll save. Okay, so we have a border on the bottom. Let's do background color. So we're going to definitely need a background color. So for the background color, I will do RGBA as well. So maybe I'll just copy this guy here. Okay, since I'm using the RGBA, well, it's going to be 0.1 anyway, so RGB of 0.1. So let me just remove this, and let's do border radius of, I'll do 10 pixel and 0, and I'll just replicate that. So I'll save. Aha, so this is what the border radius actually does. Okay, let's set the outline to none. Let's do the color of the, like the text inside of it. So we're going to do var, and we're going to do dark gray. So dark gray, I'll save that. So yeah, so that's basically what we have there. Okay, what are we going to do now? Let's add a margin on the bottom. So I would say margin hyphen bottom, and I'll just do 2 rem and save. Okay, so don't worry about the icon here. We're going to position it exactly where we want it. Okay, all right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to make it such that when we click on this guy, the border on the bottom actually changes. Okay, and when we start typing, the border actually also changes. So I'll come here and show you what I mean. So if I click here, right, you see that the border becomes orange, and if I start typing, it becomes green, and the background also changes. That's what we're going to do now. Okay, but I think we should actually position the icon first. So I think we should actually position the icon first. So let's do dot content, and we're just going to say form, and let's just get into the eye. Okay, Okay, so we're going to say position of absolute, and we're going to say from the left, right? We want it to be 1 rem from the left, and I'll save. Okay, so you see here that we have moved the icon here. All right, so let's say that from the top, right, we want it to be 1.5 rem. Voila. Okay, but of course we're going to need to give it a font size, and I'll just do 1.3 rem, and let's give it a color. So color, and I'm just going to use my variable and say color secondary. Yeah, so this is what we have here. Basically, it doesn't look like it's properly aligned though, like compared to this one. Okay, but we're going to fix that. And apparently the font size at 1.5 rem. Okay, yeah, so I missed out typing out the rem, so that's why it was looking quite small. Okay, yeah, so sometimes those kinds of things happen. All right, so let's do the border bottom and stuff. So for the border bottom, what we're going to do, let's start by targeting our content and form label. We're going to target the impute, right? And we're going to say focus. So basically this pseudo class is called focus, and we're going to attach an invalid pseudo class to it, right? So basically we're saying that when we click on this guy but we've not typed anything, okay, so what do we want to happen? So first I'm going to say I want the font size to increase, so 1.6 rem, and I'm going to say that I want the border bottom to be, so I'll just, maybe what I'll just do, I'll just come here and I'll grab this border bottom. Oh, there's no need really, so let me just grab it and paste that in. Okay, and then I'll change the color to var, right? And we're going to use our color secondary and save. Okay, so watch what happens. So when you click here, the color changes, right? Okay, so that's that. Did we set our transition here? So we did not, so let me just add a transition here, and all 0.3 seconds. Okay, so now let's add another class for when we start typing, because when we start typing here, you see here that it changes to back to black, so that's not what we want. So we are going to say, okay, so we are going to, basically what we're going to do, let me just copy this guy here. So I'll copy this guy, I'll paste it down here, and I'm going to change this to impute, and instead of invalid I will say valid. Okay, so you see what we did here. So here we said focus and invalid, here we said valid. Okay, so basically for the valid, what we want to do is we want to make the so I'm just going to first of all grab these styles here and I'll paste it in here, and I'll change the color to green. So I'm just going to use green and I'll save that. And I'm also going to change the background color, so I'll say background color, and there's this color I used, and because I used it once I didn't actually put it in a variable, so let me just paste that in. And okay, so this is the color I used, E8F0FE, and I'll save. So let's see what we have. I'll click here, you see it changes, and if I start typing it becomes green and the background changes. So basically that's what the code we just added actually does. So one more thing we're going to do is we're going to style the placeholder. So the placeholder, I don't like this style, we're going to style it to what we want. So basically what we can do is I can simply just say placeholder, right, and add my style and it will still take effect, but of course you can make it more specific, so content, form label, blah blah blah. Okay, so I'll just say placeholder and I'll give it a color of var, and we're going to use our dark gray. and we're going to give it a font size. So font size of 1.5 rem, and I'll save. Okay, so the font size of the placeholder is 1.5 rem, whereas the font size of when it is in focus is 1.6. So it's going to grow out just a little. Okay, do you see the effect? Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what we want. Okay, so now let's go down and style this stay logged in. Okay, so basically what we're just going to do is we're going to come here and say we're going to say dot content and logged. That should be dot logged, right? And I'm going to set the display right to block, and I'm going to say text align, and I'll say left, and I'll save. So any element you actually set the display to block, you can use text align to position it horizontally, either center, middle, either center, left or right. Okay, once you set the display to block, remember there are basically two kinds of elements. There is the block level element and inline element. Okay, there are other areas like inline block, but we've talked about some of these things in the previous lectures. All right, let's continue. So let's do let's take this up just a little bit. Okay, so it's the distance between this guy is too much. Okay, so we're going to do that with transform, right? And we're going to translate on the y-axis, and we're just going to do -1 rem. Yeah, so -1 and save. Okay, so you see it takes it up just a little. So let's go ahead and do the font size of 1.2 rem. Okay, all right, so I'm just going to leave this like this. I'm not going to bother to add any more styles, so it's okay like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some styles for the button. Okay, so I really want us to be done with this section, so I'll say the btn, right? And just our normal styles, let's start by adding the padding. I'll say padding of 1 rem. I'll save that. Okay, let's do font size of 1.6. okay, so that should be rem. Let's do font weight of 700 to make it thicker. All right, let's do a background color. So background color and var, and let's do our color secondary and save that. Okay, let's remove the outline. So outline and set it to none. Let's remove the border. So border and set it to none. Let's add some border radius. So border radius and set it to 3px. Okay, so it's a little bit curved at the edges. Let's make the color. So color, let's make it white. So FFF. Okay, and let's make the cursor. Let me just see. Okay, so we need to make the cursor. So cursor and set it to pointer, and if you come here, wow, that's better. What else do we need to do? So we're going to add box shadow. So box hyphen shadow, right? And on the horizontal offset we're going to put 0. On the vertical offset let's put 1 rem, and the blur we're going to make the blur 4 rem, and we're going to give it an RGBA. That's the blur color. So let's do, oh, we already have one here, so I can just click here and save. And well, it's not very, let me make this like points, maybe 3. So you see that there is like a shadow under the button. Okay, so basically that's just what we wanted. Okay, and we're done with the button. So but what we need to do, we need to add a hover property for the button. So I'll just come down here, I'll say .btn and hover, and let's just do transform, right? And let's translate it on the y-axis by upward, so that would be -3 pixels. So -3px. Okay, and let's change the background color to our variable and color primary and save. Okay, so let's see what we've done. Okay, so basically let's just add a transform to make the transition, rather, to make the animation smooth. So all and 0.3 seconds, and I'll save, and voila. Okay, so I think at this point we are done with this section. Okay, so we're going to break this lecture. So in the next section we are going to add the content for the register section and the reset section. I think we can actually do that together. Okay, but as far as I know, we are done with this section. Okay. Okay, wow, so this should actually be password, so it should be, so maybe I should just do that before we go. So I'll come here and I would look for the password, and it should be a type of password, and I'll save. And if we come here, and all right, so that's fine. Okay, so we're done with this section. See you in the next one. All right, welcome back, guys. So in this one we're going to add the content for the register and the reset section, and it's actually fairly easy. We're just going to be adding markup. Okay, so I think I removed my placeholder for my password field. I don't know why I did that, but I'm just going to come here and I'll just say place, ouch, let me give some space. I'll say placeholder and I would say password, and I'll save. Oh, my internet is disconnected. I wonder why. Let me just connect back my internet so that my icons can display properly. So all right, so my internet is back, and as you can see, all my icons are back here. All right, so how do we actually place in the section for the register and the reset? So basically all we need to do is we're just going to copy the content for the first section, which is the content login section. So from this icon here, we're going to copy it. So let me just go down and stop here at the form, and I'll just copy that, and then I would replace it here and I'll paste it in. Okay, so now let's first remove the things we don't need. So here I'm going to change this to register. I can actually make this sign up, so let me just say sign up. Okay, and we're going to change the icon here to users, so user and plural. And we actually need the username. So register, we need a username, but we also need an email. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this, and I'll come down here and paste it, and I'll just change the details here to email, and the type is going to be email. Okay, of course I'll change the ID to email, and the placeholder is going to say email. Okay, and it's also going to be required. So we're going to need a password field as well, so there's no need to change that. We don't need this login checked box here, so I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to change the login to I'll just leave it as register, and I'll save. Okay, so let's see. So sign up and username, email, password, register. Boom, we're done with this. So for the email, when you enter in your email, it becomes green. If you delete, it becomes orange. Okay, all right, so let's do for the reset. Okay, so basically for the reset we just need our email and that's all. So I'm just going to, I think it's easier for me to copy this second one. So let me just from here, and I would just come down, right, and I'll copy this, and then I would place it in my third content here. And okay, so basically I don't need I'll change this to reset, right, and I don't need the username field, so let me get rid of that. That's gone. I need the email field. I don't need the password field. The user has actually forgotten their password. Okay, except you want to set maybe type in the last password you remember or stuff like that, or like Google does and other applications. So here we're going to say reset password. So reset password, okay, and we're going to change this icon to I can't remember, let me just check. So envelope open text, okay, so I'll just change the user here to, oh sorry, here I'm going to, ouch, I'm going to, what am I doing? I'm going to change this to envelope and hyphen open hyphen text, okay. And for the email, right, I actually need to change the icon for the email. So let me just come here, and so the icon is going to be envelope, just envelope, I think, envelope, and I'll save. Okay, so let's see. So we have the envelope here, the password, and here we have the email, but we need to change this also to envelope. So I'm just going to come to my reset, and I'll change my user icon to envelope, okay, and I'll save. And let's see, so register, reset, and everything works fine. Okay, so let me just type in an email. Okay, so you see that it's green. All right, so basically we are done with the project. Okay, so far let me just expand this. So let's see what we have done. So this is what we've been able to achieve. Okay, and if I try to shrink it, so it's basically responsive. So I don't think there's a need for any media query. So even if you go to a very small mobile device, everything still fits in properly. So I think we're done here. So let me just inspect it, and let's see on a small device. So this is what it looks like on a mobile device. So I think it's fine. Okay, all right, so I want to thank you so much for coming through this process with me. Okay, we have some very interesting things for you moving on in the course. Okay, we're going to discuss SAS and some very interesting concepts. Okay, so thank you so much for watching and for practicing this section. What I'm going to advise you to do is to try and modify what you've learned and create a different project entirely. Just use the concept you've learned, modify it, and create project. Okay, all right, thank you so much, and see you in the next section.